Philanthropy and impact. When practiced by financial giants, is often misunderstood as an act of generosity that happens after wealth is secured, a kind of moral footnote appended to a successful career. In reality, for many of the world's most influential financial figures, giving back is not an afterthought, but an extension of the same thinking that allowed them to build wealth in the first place. Trading and investment history shows that the most consequential philanthropy is rarely driven by guilt or image, but by systems thinking, long-time horizons, and a deep awareness of leverage. Not financial leverage this time, but social leverage. One of the earliest and most influential examples is Andrew Carnegie, whose essay The Gospel of Wealth reshaped how elites viewed responsibility. Carnegie believed that dying rich was a failure of imagination. His philanthropy focused on libraries, education, and cultural institutions, assets that compounded human potential rather than provided temporary relief. What mattered to Carnegie was not charity in the emotional sense, but impact in the structural sense. He applied the same logic to giving that he applied to steel: build something that lasts, something that multiplies value long after the original capital is spent. John D. Rockefeller followed a similar path, though often with less public admiration during his lifetime. Rockefeller's philanthropy was highly systematic. He funded medical research universities and public health initiatives, including efforts that helped eradicate diseases like hookworm. His approach reflected a belief that problems should be studied, measured, and attacked at their root. Rockefeller did not give to feel good. He gave to solve problems. This mindset, treating philanthropy as an applied science, laid the groundwork for modern foundations and impact-driven giving. In the modern era, Warren Buffett stands as a bridge between old and new models of philanthropy. Buffett's decision to give the vast majority of his wealth away largely through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was not framed as sacrifice, but as efficiency. He openly acknowledged that others were better suited to deploy capital for social good than he was. This humility is central to understanding how financial giants approach impact. They recognize comparative advantage. Just as they allocate capital to the best businesses, they allocate philanthropic capital to the best problem solvers. The Gates Foundation itself represents a new scale of philanthropic ambition. Its focus on global health education and poverty reduction reflects a data-driven approach borrowed directly from business and finance. Problems are defined clearly, metrics are tracked, and strategies are adjusted based on evidence. This mirrors the feedback loops used in investing. The lesson here is that effective philanthropy, like effective investing, requires patience measurement and a tolerance for delayed results. Short-term visibility is sacrificed for long-term transformation. Another important shift among modern financial giants is the move from charity to impact investing. Figures like Ray Dalio and many hedge fund founders have increasingly explored ways to align profit with purpose. Rather than separating wealth creation from social good, they seek opportunities where capital can address systemic issues while remaining financially sustainable. This approach reflects a deeper evolution in thinking. Instead of asking how much to give away, they ask how capital itself can be structured to produce positive externalities continuously. Philanthropy also serves a psychological function for financial giants that is rarely discussed openly. Extreme wealth creates distance from ordinary experience. Giving back becomes a way to remain connected to reality, to ground abstract numbers in human outcomes. Many investors have spoken privately about how philanthropy recalibrates perspective, reminding them that markets are tools, not ends. This perspective often feeds back into better decision-making, reinforcing humility and long-term thinking. What distinguishes the philanthropy of financial giants from ordinary charitable giving is not scale alone, but intentionality. They choose causes, carefully focus narrowly, and commit for decades. They accept that meaningful impact is slow, politically complex, and often controversial. Just as in markets, they endure criticism and uncertainty without abandoning their framework. The same emotional resilience that allowed them to withstand drawdowns allows them to persist when social change proves frustratingly gradual. When viewed through this lens, philanthropy is not a departure from financial mastery, but its continuation. It applies the same principles, leverage systems, patience, and discipline to a different domain. And it is exactly here, when giving is treated not as charity, but as long-term capital allocation for human outcomes, that the deeper relationship between wealth and responsibility begins to emerge. And the story of how financial giants give back continues forward, without yet fully reaching its end, because when philanthropy is examined beyond headlines and donation totals, its most powerful dimension becomes visible: the feedback loop between wealth responsibility and long-term thinking. In this second layer, we see that giving back is not only about changing the world outwardly, but also about preserving clarity inwardly. For many financial giants, philanthropy becomes a stabilizing force that counterbalances the distortions of extreme success, grounding decision-making in consequences that extend beyond balance sheets. As fortunes grow, the abstraction of money increases. Numbers lose emotional weight. Gains and losses become symbols rather than lived realities. Philanthropy reintroduces friction into this abstraction. It forces engagement with outcomes that cannot be smoothed by spreadsheets alone. When a foundation funds disease eradication, education reform, or poverty reduction, results are slow, messy, and deeply human. This friction is uncomfortable, but it is also clarifying. It reminds financial giants that not all problems yield to speed or certainty, reinforcing the patience that made them successful investors in the first place. Another critical insight emerges here. The most effective philanthropy mirrors portfolio construction. Financial giants diversify impact across time horizons, geographies, and methods. Some initiatives aim for immediate relief. Others target generational change. Failures are expected measured and iterated upon rather than hidden. This approach stands in contrast to emotionally driven charity, which often seeks instant validation. The lesson is subtle but profound. Sustainable impact, like sustainable returns, requires tolerance for ambiguity and the discipline to stay committed when results lag behind intention. There is also a clear pattern of self-imposed accountability. Many modern philanthropists invite independent evaluation, publish data, and accept public scrutiny. This openness reflects an investor's mindset. Capital without feedback leads to waste. Impact without measurement leads to illusion. By treating philanthropy as a system rather than a gesture, financial giants protect their giving from the same pitfalls they avoided in markets: ego, overconfidence, and narrative capture. Over time, philanthropy reshapes legacy. The most enduring financial icons are not remembered solely for how much they accumulated, but for how thoughtfully they redistributed influence. Carnegie's libraries still educate. Rockefeller's medical institutions still save lives. Buffett's pledge has altered expectations for generational wealth. These outcomes did not arise from impulsive generosity, but from deliberate alignment between values and structure. Legacy in this sense is not created by intention alone, but by execution sustained across decades. What is most instructive is that philanthropy does not replace market discipline. It reinforces it. By operating in a domain where outcomes are uncertain and feedback is delayed, financial giants sharpen the same muscles required for long-term investing. Humility, patience, adaptability, and restraint are exercised daily. Giving back becomes another arena in which these traits are tested and refined. And so the story of philanthropy among financial giants resolves into something larger than charity. It becomes a continuation of a worldview, one that sees capital as a tool, time as an ally, and responsibility as inseparable from power. When wealth is understood, this way giving back is not an endpoint, but a natural extension of disciplined thinking applied to human outcomes. If this exploration of philanthropy and impact changed how you view the relationship between wealth and responsibility, consider subscribing to continue examining the deeper patterns behind financial power and long-term influence, and leave a comment sharing which example of giving back resonated with you most and why.